Hello. I have tried to make a version of this video, I don't know, a couple times. I have different drafts from over the last year, but honestly have not felt safe enough to make this video. I know there's other content on YouTube that is allowed on YouTube that talks about this kind of stuff. I've always kind of tried to keep this channel flying a little under the radar, so to speak. I try to avoid certain terms, all that kind of thing. Hopefully I can be a little bit more expressive and use some of that now with the current administration. And that's the reason I want to ultimately make this video, because there's still a legal battle going on in the court systems. I don't have all the reference numbers and all of that, but I'm sure with some Google searching you can find the detailed specifics if you want to look that up. But it's regarding modular sporting rifles and modular sporting handguns or pistols. And you know, I use these different terms, and government loves terms. And about 4 years ago, the government decided to change the term or the definition of a term. And basically with the stroke of a pen, the ATF made possibly 40 million of us gun owners potential felons. Now, even this kind of flew under the radar because very few people felt like they could speak out about it. I thought about posting some things and felt like I couldn't, because then I would be labeled and targeted as one of these potential felons. There was all these definition changes, and let me explain kind of the background of that. So, you know, you have your basic AR-15, all right, with a 16-inch barrel, and you know, that's like the classic design right there, okay? You have longer barrel lengths, 20 inch, etc. But a lot of folks, they want something a little bit more compact. And in fact, the military uses a version of this that is a little bit shorter. 14.5-inch barrel is the M4 that many of our Army soldiers are trained on. A lot of special operations fighters, they like to have something even more compact because they're in closer quarters. And as civilians, that also tends to make sense, because, you know, I do have this set up to clear the house, but having something even smaller to clear the house is a great idea. And so even back, 30, 40 years ago, there were what were called AR-15 pistols on the market. Now, they showed up with just simply a bare buffer tube. The buffer tube is the part right here that the stock adheres to, and there was no stock in place. And that was because these guns had a shorter than 16-inch barrel, and they had all different barrel lengths. But if it's shorter than 16 inches, according to the National Firearms Act, it is now legally a pistol, and so it has to comply to certain standards and cannot have a stock on the pistol. Well, who knows when this trend really started, but as I said, in the special operations warfare environment, they started playing with different, and this goes all the way back to like the 70s and 80s, chopping barrel lengths down for their special operations. And the civilian market started to pick up on that. And so even, I believe it's attributed to a veteran special operations guy. I said, you know what, we need to make something to make the AR pistol easier to shoot, because here's the thing with this bare buffer tube, you really can't put that against your shoulder very easily. It's just kind of hanging out there. Now, there are some people, and if you do some searching on YouTube, there's a couple channels dedicated to this, teaching people how to actually put their cheek against the bare pistol buffer tube and use it. And if you practice with anything, you know, you can get good at it. In fact, proof of concept, you know, Western cowboy action shooters, you know, can be faster than the average person with this, with their little single shot or a single action revolvers, and they practice and they can shoot, you know, 20 rounds and reload and all that kind of stuff. So ultimately it does come down to how disciplined, how trained are you. But going back to the veteran who designed the brace, my understanding was he wanted something that would help especially disabled folks be able to use an AR pistol better, because AR pistols with a shorter barrel length are going to be lighter. Now, I'm going to show an AR pistol here that is not affected by this brace thing. In fact, so this is still fully legal right now. Now, this is an interesting contraption. It has a short barrel buffer system. This is by Pantheon Arms. I think it's, don't remember the name of this product, the Kentry short buffer system, okay? But most buffer systems stick out to here. And again, not enough to really chamber or put against your shoulder. This actually right now has a pistol scope on it. So the eye relief is about 10 inches. So to effectively fire this, I've got to be back this far. Now notice the barrel length. This is an 8.5 inch, 5.56 barrel. So, you know, this might work if I was target shooting or if I wanted to kind of brace it, maybe on a bench. But in a defensive situation, this, unless I really, really practice with it, this is not going to be effective. And with this short barrel length, you have to deal with other things like muzzle flash. Especially right now, I don't have a flash hider on it. When I shoot this, a fireball comes out of here because the shorter barrel length, the powder is actually coming out and still igniting outside the barrel. So that does tend to have its own challenges. But here's the thing, going back to the whole idea of a brace. Now I'm going to show one. I feel like I'm able to safely show one finally. This is a brace made by SB Tactical, and it is on also a shorter barrel firearm that technically, up until 4 years ago, was called a pistol. And then all of a sudden, Biden's ATF got involved and they tried to change the definition of a brace and call it a stock. And all of a sudden, it became a felony to own one of these without having a special tax stamp. And so overnight, 40 million of us Americans all of a sudden had to question what we were going to do. Were we going to register this as a short-barreled firearm, or were we going to disassemble it or change the whole firearm itself? I'll just kind of bluntly say millions of us decided not to do anything. Now, I took an extra step. I disassembled some of my firearms and kept parts of it separated from the other parts, reconfigured it, and I followed all the legal rules in doing so. But there were a lot of lawsuits that were trying to stop this. And those lawsuits have made their way through the court systems, and the Supreme Court is hearing some of these suits. And just recently, kind of the new what's going on with this whole thing is Trump's 2A executive order has caused a big freeze to this action by the ATF, and it's going to be reevaluated, and hopefully it's going to be struck down for good. Now, ultimately, what does this mean for you? Well, hopefully I want to try to clear up some of the mystery about what's been going on. You know, and the fact that 40 million of us Americans have been kind of persecuted in a sense for owning basically this, because they know inherently that it's attached to this, and they know that the reason many of us have these is so that we have a quick access firearm that can put suppressive fire downrange quickly in a bad situation. You know, I carry this primarily, now I'm still working on the configuration, don't judge my gas block and all that, but I primarily carry a design firearm like this to react to a active shooter situation. And I've shared this in other videos, some of the environments that I'm in. There's potential threat for an active shooter. So here's the other thing though. So there is a way to legally own a short-barreled rifle, I referenced it a minute ago, with an actual stock on it. You have to pay a $200 tax stamp, and you have to submit your fingerprints to the FBI and all this kind of stuff. Lots of paperwork, lots of hassle. And then here's the thing: it's now considered a rifle. It's its own class of firearm, and in order to cross state lines, you have to notify the law enforcement across the state line and say, hey, by the way, I'm going to cross the state line with my SBR. I don't have time for that. I live very close. In fact, right now where I'm sitting, I'm within a mile of a state line, and I cross that state line on a daily basis. So I don't have time, if I want to have a quick reaction firearm in my vehicle, locked up securely, ready to go, to contact the law enforcement, in the state that I don't reside in. That's just ridiculous. And here's the thing, I believe the ATF knows that. They wrote it, and they are trying to make it more and more difficult for law-abiding citizens to be prepared to react to situations that could happen. So ultimately, I'm doing this video just kind of share what's going on, and hopefully you can be on the lookout for what's going down with that. This also, those of you who might be new to firearms, and you've seen some of my other videos kind of pushing the modular sporting rifle that I like to refer to this as. This is a very do-all capable firearm, just in this configuration, but then there's other niches that this firearm can handle, and something a little bit more compact. This is a different caliber right here. This is 7.62 by 39. This is traditionally what the AK-47 shoots, but this is capable of taking deer. Now, so is that. This is actually probably capable of taking bear. This is, packs a little bit more punch, even out of the shorter barrel length. So just there's so much variety and options and niches for this firearm to fill. And it's time for us to push back. I'm not advocating violence in any way. I'm glad that President Trump signed his 2A executive order, and I hope that we get some true common sense back into our legislative system. The ATF is not a legislative body, and it should not be making laws. And it should not be changing definitions. When under one president, this was a legal, thing to use, and then under another president, oh, nope, it's not legal anymore. Excuse me? Who gives you the right to do that? I didn't, and neither did the American people. So anyways, trying not to get too political here, but did hope to at least clear up some of the confusion that might exist about some of this stuff, and give you some other options to look into. And just following that one thread about crossing state lines, because I'm a concealed carry license holder in my state, got my USCCA sweater on here. My concealed carry permit covers handguns, and legally speaking, this is a handgun. Legally speaking, this is a handgun. So if I have it in a backpack in my vehicle, or if I've got even car issues and I got to walk down the road with one of these in my backpack, I'm still completely legal in doing so, and I have a permit that allows me to do that and keep it out of people's business. If I'm stuck on the side of the road and I've got to carry a gun case with one of these, well, that's going to be a little bit more different situation, and I can't just go walking through a rest stop with a long gun in a case. That's actually in one state near where I'm at is illegal. So as a gun owner, if you've taken that step, you need to make sure you know the laws in your state and in the states you might visit. Know what your do's and don'ts are, and try to respect those laws as much as you can. As I said, I try to abide by every little tiny law, even though I think a lot of it's absolutely ridiculous. Now, I will say the little bit of research I've done, the whole 16-inch under thing stems all the way back to the 1930s. That's when the National Firearm Act was written. And it was to kind of push back against the gangster epidemic that was going on, organized crime. And the only reason people, quote unquote, had sawed-off rifles or sawed-off shotguns was to engage in crime. And, I understand that. I see that. There was, these kind of firearms were deemed as like cop killers, and if you're a good guy, you wouldn't be carrying a cop killer. And I do want our men and women in blue to be protected. I do have a lot of ultimate respect for law enforcement. But I also believe that the citizens should have the ability to protect themselves, especially from armed thugs, armed robbers, because those men and women in blue can't be there every time that we are. And, here I am, a responsible, permitted, licensed, fingerprinted gun owner, and by the swipe of a pen, all of a sudden I'm deemed a felon. So, keep that in mind. Keep that in mind when you vote. Really excited about some of the things that we see in the current administration, and hopefully clear up some of the nonsense. Anyways, I'm done pontificating. If you have any questions, I'm going to turn the comments off to this video, but feel free to reach out to me at the email at this channel. Hope for the best, prepare for the worst. Take care.